Hi there guys, it's Alec here, and today we're going to chat about automated BI for Pastel. And I think a good place to start is just to check the environment that you operate in when you have a Pastel Partner, Pastel Xpress or Sage 50 Cloud environment. Alright, so firstly, when you use the software, you're using Pastel, which specifically is modules called Pastel Partner, Pastel Xpress or Sage 50 Cloud in that suite of products. And when you then transact to a company, you create a database in the back end that goes and sits in a PSQL database when you transact in your company. And what it actually does, it creates beautiful tables in the back end, various tables. For instance, setup tables, which would be something like your control accounts, your E-types, your financial periods. It sets up master file environments like your customer accounts, supplier accounts, your GL accounts, etc. And then it also sets up document tables. Those are stuff like your purchase order, sales orders, quotes, GRNs, etc. And then lastly, your GL, which would be your trial balance, general ledger, cash books, and debtor and creditors aging. Okay, so most of us as accountants and auditors actually spend our time in the GL. That is where financial transactions have taken place in the history, which we've processed as debits and credits to the GL. But the majority of businesses, the biggest part of the business from a perspective outside of the auditing environment or the accounting environment, actually is interested more in the data that sits in these tables called the documents, masters, and setups. Let me, for instance, give you an example. If your procurement department, for instance, they issue purchase orders. Now, those purchase orders are not financial of nature until they have actually come into the business where you can capture them as a supplier's invoice. So they are open documents or non-financial documents, as we refer to them. So a procurement department would typically want to see open purchase orders. Just likewise, your sales department would want to see open quotes. Again, they have not yet hit your GL. And they would want to see which quotes are open and which, what is the trend of quotes. Sales orders are similar. So your marketing department, for instance, would want to send out an emailer to your customer database. Now that sits in your master environment, not in documents or in GL. So you can see how a lot of this actually is, it's important to have access to this data, but it's quite difficult. So what currently happens is it's very difficult to get this information out and to link it, to an environment that can be used by the business. So often what happens is a very manual process where you're starting to export reports out of your Pastel, and it takes quite a lot of effort to try and bind various kind of fields to different reports to bring a report forward that is usable by the organization. And this happens, if it's not somehow automated, it has to happen over and over again. If you want to have updated information tomorrow, you have to redo all this manual work, and that is very cumbersome and also not conducive to trying to use Pastel's database as an ERP environment. So then what happens is the guys start actually using outside systems, like they would use Excel as a quoting system, and they would use a Excel database for their customers to capture it on, or some kind of Google sheet, and that's not necessarily great for the health of your Sage database. All right, so what we have done is we've created a app called MyBI. This MyBI app integrates to any Pastel Partner, Xpress or Sage 50 Cloud database, and it ultimately automates your BI intelligence and your management reporting. But in essence, what it actually does, it takes all those tables that you see here, and it already creates bindings between all these tables. And also on top of that, when you look at this data in your MyBI app, you'll see that it's structured, it's enriched with additional fields that you have to work really hard for manually to get. It's automated, it's fully automated, so you don't have to redo it tomorrow and again and again. It's just automatically updated, and then it's fully accessible. So it sits in Excel, which means it's easily accessible, and you can drill down to transaction level, and multitude of your people in your organization can actually have access to it without having the complexity of trying to go through it through Pastel itself, which is a very technical environment and probably more built for a financial person. Right, so I'm going to quickly pop into a demo here. Okay, so this is a demo of MyBI with some demo companies in here. You can also consolidate because many companies actually have multiple companies in Pastel. So you can consolidate. For this purpose, I'm just going to show you one of the companies in here. So it auto builds all of these reports that you can read over here. So financial reports over here, some balance sheets, income statement, cash flow statements. That's cash flow by transaction. Then accounting reports, your typical reports you also get out of Pastel, your trial balances, debtors, and credits analysis, and then you've got some statistical analysis that it auto builds for your top customers and daily sales, daily cash flow. And then you've got your transaction insight. So the transaction insight is those tables that I've referred to a little bit earlier, these documents over here, and then you've got your customer and your supplier databases also coming through, which sits in your masters. All right, so I'm going to show you quickly in the dashboard what it looks like. So this is the overview of the dashboard. Your dashboard is always accessible through this icon that looks like this little graph icon. And if you come onto it, you've got on the left hand side here, you start off with some documents, open documents. So quotes with an aging on quotes. You've got access to your customer database over here. You've got sales orders that are open, purchase orders that are open, and click through ability. So you can click on this and it'll actually take you through to your open quotes. You'll see that adds to 422. And I go back with this icon to the dashboard, and there's the 422. So that's the detailed environment. So I'm just going to quickly pop back to the quotes just to show you what these reports actually show you. So it gives you, for instance, the number of the quote, the date it was issued, the customer it was issued to, your reference that was used, the expiry date. This message is something very specific to when you use My Customers, which is the app used to capture quotations and any kind of customer documents very quickly. So it gives you a lot of info in here, and then you can also go through to something like your sales orders. Okay, so if you click on MyBI, you always go through to the landing page or the page you came from. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the dashboard. So if you go to sales orders, you can now see that you can manage on a detailed level. So that on quotes was just header level information. This is line information. So you can see, for instance, here's an open sales order. But what does this 12,000 actually relate to? So if you open over here, you'll see that it actually gives you the specific lines on a line-by-line basis that you capture on the sales order. So it's very detailed. It's up to that line level, the details level that you capture in the block when you actually capture documents in Pastel. Right, so that's your sales order. If you go back and you go to purchase order, you'll see the same thing. It's a purchase order that's open. But what is the detail? So what did I actually order on this purchase order? So you'll see it actually gives you that level of detail onto a line-by-line basis. And those are the two that are open. These are the expiry dates. So I can see they've already expired, and I can now immediately follow up and say, why haven't you yet delivered? Some of the other things that's also in here, working capital is a very important bubble to deal with. What does my working capital look like? So there's debtors with click through to debtors. Cash, you can click your cash, either cash flow or your cash book, which is going to be your reconciliation environment, your creditors, and if you use inventory, you can click through to that. This is your balance sheet environment, you know, your trends on assets versus liability versus equity, also a little analysis done for you here. And then this is the income statement year to date. This is the income statement month on month trends. And these stepped lines over here that goes into the future, that's actually your budget. If you've used budgets in Pastel, you'll be able to see that right over here, and it kind of trends across your actuals. So it's very nice to see where you're tracking in relation to your actuals. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly select only from my beginning, my opening balances up to where I'm now at, which is in August. And then you'll see this all changes interactively in front of you. You also have the options to select branches. If you've captured your trial balance in such a way that your trial balance has got branches in it, you can go and map those branches in. You can also see your entities categories coming through here, which also is very nice because you can quickly select an option and it'll change the dashboard in front of you just to give you information based on the categories, the entities that have been categorized to this specific category. That's very nice for consolidation purposes. If you have intercompany companies that you have allocated to, let's say, a group company, you can actually slice them out or slice them back in and it shows you all the legs of the transactions, by the way. All right, so now if I go to something like my debtors, the debtors will show you immediately what debtors are actually what the debtors are at the stage that you've selected, and you can go and immediately see a few things. You can, for instance, open this one and go and see, well, what invoices from most recent to oldest have I issued against this customer, and it shows you, it would be your reference that you got from the customer as your PO numbers or the order number, what is the invoice number and when is it due by, and you can see these greens show you the receipts that you've received against this customer. All right, you can also have your month aging year to slice your data in such a way to see who is really overdue. Then if we go, I'm going to go back to the main page. The same applies for your creditors analysis. Your credits analysis has a block which is actually in red for payments that have been done against your creditors. So that's a very simple way to see your creditors, to see true reflections of the transactions against creditors, and to do working capital kind of reconciliations. Remember, our working capital is one of our biggest jobs that we've got when we analyze data to see how my debtors doing, how my creditors doing, how's my cash doing. Okay, so cash flow is also quite nice. It gives you your cash flow by transaction, and if you go, for instance, you say, okay, well, we've received 3.5 million worth of cash. My cash currently is 29,000 Rand. So that 29,000 Rand is auto reconciled, and if I go and I say, but show me how it was actually received, it was received from trade debtors. How was it received? Okay, it gives you your by customer that they've actually paid you, and then you can say, show me the month. So that's the structuring of data. I can say, well, they've actually paid me. This is the values of receipts that they've actually paid me in. Okay, so then I can say, well, filter between only payments or only receipts. I can do that, and I can even go one further and say, well, show me the dates that money was received on, and these are the actual payments that you've captured through your cash book modules. Okay, if you want to see this in cash book related terms, I can just toggle and say, this is cash flow, this is transactions, and this is on a level of cash book. So now I can reconcile my various cash books, and it'll show all your cash books over here. Okay, I also have the functionality to copy anything to Excel or to Pastel at any stage. So I can go and say copy to Excel what I see here, Control N, and I can just say Control V, and I paste that on a new sheet, and here I can manipulate, or I can color it in, or whatever I want. In the app itself, I'm just going to say don't save. In the app itself, you cannot manipulate, so it means this is just a true reflection of your database, which is quite nice. Then some other features, perhaps just quick ones that I think you're going to enjoy, is the top customer trends. These are just easy for you to see. What are my top customers? What are my top suppliers? I can quickly track between the top 10, the top 20, the top 30, top 40, or all of them. So you can actually decide what you want to see. You can also see it by month and say, well, how did they actually fare? This is nice for a gap analysis. You can also see the same for customers. Daily sales, that's a nice report just showing you how you've sold on a daily basis, on a month-to-month basis, and on a and on a yearly basis, and you can actually track it cumulatively or by toggling over to daily gross profit or your daily sales. You can toggle back, and you can also open this to see it on a month-to-month basis, and you can say show it to me cumulatively, so it then adds it up automatically in front of you. This is just nice, kind of like one-click environment in MyBI. We always try and make it easy and to bring everything together. Okay, if you wanted to see your top moving items, these are your top items by customers. So items sold, and then it's items that you've actually purchased. You can see by items purchased over here, and this is the quantity that you can see. So it's either by value or by quantity. And you can open these months again and say, how have I sold on a month-to-month basis? And you've got full access to all these environments coming together for you to manage it on different levels. I think the one that you also would like to see is just the customer and the supplier database. Here's your customer database as it comes out of Pastel. So obviously this is demo data, but you'll be able to see all the emails that have been captured, all the contacts, all the numbers, etc. You can quickly send an emailer to everybody, or you can toggle between the categories that you've already captured inside of your database and just say, well, I just want to see these guys now, and then only send an email to them. Let me just quickly bring that back on. That's the same for suppliers, so you can easily communicate and follow up on different things. Okay. You also have your items sold by suppliers, bought from suppliers, to say what are my top items bought by amount or by quantity, and you have access to journals. The very last thing I want to show you is just a quick little way to issue financial reports. These are management accounts for third parties. So you just click on this icon over here that says third party reports, and once you're ready you can just say issue in PDF, and this is a very it's a good quality set of third party management accounts that's going to generate in PDF that you can send to your to bankers or your auditors or internal to your management teams, and it's just a very quick way of doing it. And depending on what period you've sliced, you can also change between what end date you want to finish off with, and you'll see it actually generates a very high quality set of management accounts in about 30 seconds or 45 seconds. So it's almost done. It's just prepping all the documents. That's why you see it's kind of like just making sure everything is neatened up, so that when you get it, it's not a unneat set of management accounts. You can just send it off to the bank, and everything is calculated by computer, which obviously also makes it very nice to make sure that you don't have to recalculate, or something is not balancing correctly, or it wasn't added up correctly. So there's, you know, a 21 pager. Sorry about that. I'm just going to kind of like page through it. There's your balance sheet, and there's your income statement by quarter, income statement by month, previous year month. There's your property, plant, equipment, your detailed, your extended balance sheet, your debtors aging, your creditors aging. There's your income statement by segment, if you have segments, and there's your balance sheet by business if you've consolidated. So I've only sliced on company 2 over here. All right, so let me close that. And if you wanted to change it quickly and say, I actually didn't want to send up to the end of August, I actually wanted to send up to the end of July, then you just merely select up to July. You just deselect August or wherever you want to deselect, and now you've got a new set of statements which is up to the end of July, and you can reissue them, and it'll take the same amount of time and issue the same quality of statements. All right. Well, there's a lot in it, but that's the overview of MyBI. And as I said, it auto generates management accounts from any Pastel Partner, Pastel Xpress or Sage 50 cloud environment, and it gives you all of this nice ability to now really do data analysis quickly, and to make sure that you're getting a real high quality output from the time you're going to invest when you actually do analyze your financial information. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great one. Bye.